Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're back at the Davies County Museum with Mrs. Cavanaugh from Cannelburg, Indiana. Mrs. Cavanaugh has been explaining to us the different mediums of paintings that she has worked with over the years in her impressive collection. And so she has another illustration of a different type of medium that she'd like to show us.
And it's a combination of something that I've recently enjoyed working on would be wood panels. And these wood panels, actually I discovered them out at the cabinet factory of one of my Amish friends. And so I saw this box of just cut-offs that were down on the floor there. And I said, what do you plan to do with those? And he said, well, I don't know, would you like some? I said, yeah, I'd like to try painting on a wood panel. So right away they got some nice sizes for me and rounded off the corners immediately. So that was a big help. And so then this is acrylic now. The others have been oil, pastel. Let me see, what was
watercolor, I believe.
The watercolor and the silkscreen print.
Silkscreen.
So this one now.
Describe for us what an acrylic is.
Yeah, okay. Acrylic is much like oil painting, but you have to work much more quickly with acrylic paints because they dry so rapidly. So you have, if you're painting with acrylics, keep your brushes in water. Take an old-fashioned ice cube tray or something, and so that you can lay the brushes down in between. Otherwise, you ruin your brushes if you let them sit there. So you can't blend them quite as easily as you can with an oil painting, again because they dry quickly. But it's a nice medium to work with because it's water-based. You can wash up easily, clean up easily, and the overall effect is similar to the oil painting. So I have enjoyed working in pastels. This scene is another Davis County scene. So that's at one of the farms north of Cannelburg. And this
the gentleman in the painting, is that one of your neighbors, or is that a
well,
fictional character?
You see the little red part up here on his cap?
Yes.
Well, I had painted a little barn, not a barn, but a shed back in this area on the other side of the old barn, and I didn't like it. It didn't look so good, so I painted it out, but I left that little red so that when I put the man in, the red part of his cap is from the original old red roof of the little shed I was painting.
So as an artist, sometimes you have to adapt and improvise.
That's right. Another thing that's kind of interesting with this technique that Keith told us about is that if something looks difficult to you, start painting it upside down.
Really?
So I started painting the trees upside down, and anyway, then when it's finished, you turn it right side up. I think I probably painted him partly upside down, because to paint a figure head on, it's difficult, I think, to do that. So this way, you're looking at shapes and not the person.
I see.
Yeah. So that was kind of that idea. And then after you turn it up right side up again, after you've painted the shapes of what you see there, and trying to not think of it as a person, think of it as shapes. So you're usually surprised when you turn it around.
All right, Mrs. Cavanaugh, do you have any other interesting stories you'd like to share with us about this acrylic piece that you prepared?
Well, just my Amish friends knew about this particular site where this old barn was standing, so she got permission from the family who owned the property, and she and I walked back through the woods, and then up on a plateau was this wonderful old barn, just perfect for a subject matter for a painting. So anyway, that's the old barn, and I think we talked about pretty much about that. But I was going to say too, Bruce, that on that painting, the oil painting that I'm donating to the League,
yes,
that's from that same path that we walked through, or at least based on that same path.
Same area as this
Yes.
piece. Well, that's interesting.
Right. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Now I've got to ask on this piece, and even the oil painting.
Yes.
Now I assume you didn't set up your easel in the middle of the
No,
field and,
no.
and paint in the
I
field
know.
like Vincent van Gogh or something.
No, the plein air painting, we did that, Pauline Holtz, also one of the Art League members, she and I walked up to, I think, Shoals someplace, where a group of artists were plein air paintings. So we did that one time. But usually I work from a photograph. It's easier than going out,
Sure.
setting up everything outside.
I've noticed over the years, Kathleen, that many artists seem to be attracted to old, dilapidated barns.
Yes, they have more character.
Well, I was going to ask you to share with us, why do you think artists such as yourself are so intrigued with old, dilapidated barns?
Well, let's compare it with a new house, for example. New house would be very beautiful, but it hasn't developed its character yet. Where the old barns, in a way, they tell a story about everything that went on. This old barn, when I took pictures of it, it showed the trolleys up above where it would bring up the bales of straw or hay, straw, and where they were loaded back down. And so all of these stories with the old barn, even the way they used to work.
And I've noticed now that I've looked at this piece for a few minutes, it looks to be an elderly gentleman with a cane,
Yes,
looking at the barn.
yes.
He seems to be reminiscing about
Actually,
some
that
of
wasn't part of the picture, of course. That's something I put in later on to make human interest.
Was that intentional? Was that what the
Yes.
design of the painting?
Well, the design of the painting was to have that second shed over there where I used the red hat. But it needed something else beside the barn, and that's why I put in person for human interest.
It does add a great deal to the piece.
Mhm,
An elderly gentleman using a cane,
Yes.
looking at an old barn that he's probably had a
Right.
lot of experiences with in the
Yes.
past. It's very imaginative. It's very very
Well,
very
thank
well
you.
done.
Mhm.
I think you have one more piece to show us this afternoon.
Okay.
And so what is that we're looking at?
Well, this is an example of calligraphy.
Right, what is calligraphy?
Well, a beautiful form of writing, let's say. The formal definition I can't really tell you. But anyway, it is the beautiful form of writing with different fonts, different alphabets that are used, and there are books and books written about calligraphy and the different styles of it. But the reason I became interested in it, was able to work in it, was because the Art League had a workshop with Lenore Cady, a wonderful artist from Scotland, Indiana, who had her career was out in California in Humboldt County, and she taught at Humboldt County College there. And also, she was the one that painted the old historic homes in Eureka and Arcata, California. Beautiful old homes. They had character, by the way. And along with those paintings, she would do all her calligraphy all around, telling the history of each letter and some beautiful poem or whatever it was that she wrote about it. But she gave our workshop down here for the Art League members. And my goodness, what a wonderful teacher she was. And vibrant, exciting, something like Keith was with his oil paintings.
Enthusiastic.
But in a different style, very enthusiastic. And very encouraging with whatever we did. But we had to practice a lot. So I brought along a couple of the practice pages from when I was in that class. So this is one. Maybe I'll put it up here and you can
Yes.
see that better.
So this is obviously something you've done by hand, is that correct?
Oh, yes.
And what type of medium or what type of material do you use to prepare a calligraphy, a piece
Well,
like this?
it's an ink. It's a regular black ink. It may be called calligraphy ink, but that I'm not sure. I can't remember. And calligraphy pens. The pen that you use is something that will determine the preciseness of the letter itself. in this case, I think it was just a large size wedge type paint, calligraphy pen. And of course you have to slope it at the right angle to be sure that it's not all flat all the way around. It has to have the little, if you hold it at the same angle, whether it's up or down or sideways this way, it changes the shape and the width of the letter. I don't want to sound too complicated about that, but
It sounds
anyway.
complicated. Now, this is this sheet you're showing us now. That's what you call a practice sheet. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yeah. As I said, there's books of practice sheets, but that be one example of the practice that we had to do in between our classes in the workshop that Lenore gave us.
And so you have another sheet, another practice sheet.
Yes, in a different font. And in fact, I've written on this, the type of pen was called Elegant Writer, and it's the extra broad point of this one. And the little markings along the side tell you the distance between the width and the length of the letter. I'm not explaining that well. But anyway, a different font, different alphabet used for that one. But I was also going to say that Lenore, we became friends with Lenore. A lot of us did from the Art League. And she invited us up to her home. She's going to make lunch for us,
Wow.
which she did. And it took us over to her gallery, which was across the street. See, what is it called? Anyway, she had a gallery with her beautiful original paintings of the alphabet. She did all 26 letters in this beautifully bound volume of her houses and letters is what the book is called. It's a collector's item now,
I bet.
but it's beautiful.
And I suppose the number of different fonts
Yes.
that you could use with calligraphy are infinite.
Well, maybe not infinite, but there are many, many of them, yeah.
Okay.
And she, explained a lot of them, not that many of them, but she did go through the different fonts, had us practice with the different fonts,
Yes.
explain the different ones. But her favorite was the Times Roman.
Times Roman.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that one of the examples you showed us here, or?
No, this would be the old, can't remember the style of it, but it'd be one of the older forms that was used. And then to talk a little bit about the, see, here it is. So, this one is, again, the Elegant Writer pen, but a much tinier, finer one. But I've combined the calligraphy lettering itself with the kind of an ornamentation around here that in the books or some of the old artists would use that to, they're called flourishes, a flourish around the letter itself. So in this case, from this letter R, it would wind around here, and you start first with just the plain line, and then you would go back and flourish it with the leaves and the flowers, and just makes a little more attractive painting.
I'm trying to adjust my bifocals so I can
Yeah.
read. It looks like John Neal. Is that a quote from Mr. Neal?
Yes, it is, and I love this quote. Reading calligraphy is the closest you can get to hearing music with your eyes.
And is Mr. Neal an artist that you
I
admire?
don't know. I don't know where the quote came from, but I love that quote.
It is lovely. Well, again, Mrs. Cavanaugh, we certainly appreciate your coming in today and sharing with us, I think it was 5 mediums that you've worked with over the years.
Yes.
You obviously are an extremely accomplished artist,
Well, thank you.
and it's been an honor and a privilege to talk with you this afternoon.
Thank you, Bruce.
We'd like to take this opportunity to again make another plug for our upcoming art exhibit at the
Yeah.
Davies County Museum
That's exciting.
on Sunday,
I know,
June the
when-
6th.
A year and a half ago, I think it was, we had the Shared Treasures exhibit.
Yes.
And I, love being part of that for one thing, but the exhibit itself with all of the different crafts that the artists brought in, that was wonderful too.
And I trust that you will be able to be with us on June the 6th.
I hope so. I plan to.
And what would you tell your visitors about coming out and taking a look at these various pieces of art and the importance of art in our lives?
Well, I guess appreciating art. Sometimes I guess we get so carried away with all of the I call it nonsense, not always nonsense, but a lot of things that we watch on TV, for example. But I think to get into the fine arts is a part of the education that everybody should have, I think. And I think when they come, there will be an atmosphere that they can absorb of seeing the different artists' artwork. So it should be, I'm looking forward to that particular art show then. June the 6th,
Yes,
1
Sunday,
to 5,
June.
I think it is.
Yes, it is.
Oh, and Bruce, may I also say
Yes.
that we're also planning, or we hope to have the start of a new art league.
Is that
starting
right?
up with new artists coming in, so that'd be wonderful if we can.
Well, if you if that's successful,
Yes.
and you're able to get this new art league established, let us know, and the museum would certainly like to promote that
Yes.
and encourage people to join.
Well, I think museum director here, she's the one that's kind of starting this, and I know she'll do a good job with that.
Well, that's a good lead-in, because I've been instructed by the director to tell people that if they do have any pieces of art for the upcoming June 6th art exhibit here at the museum that they would like to loan to the museum for a 1-month period, they'll be on display for 1 month after the exhibit, that they can contact Becky Crimp, the museum director, and her number is 812-698-1510, and she'd be happy to talk with you about loaning those pieces to the museum for the art exhibit and for the exhibit that follows here at the museum for approximately 30 days. Mrs. Cavanaugh, again, thank you very much for being
Welcome.
with us this afternoon.
Yes.
It has been enjoyable.
Well, I'm glad. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
Mhm.